Some martial arts schools are apparently using illegal tactics to recruit students. Last week, the Channel 2 investigative team reported on mind control techniques used by some of the John C. Kim schools of Chung Moo Quan. Tonight, Pam Zeckman reports on financial exploitation in the cult and the con.
Chung Moo Quan schools say they teach the true martial art. The walls are plastered with pictures of their Korean founder, Master John C. Kim, said to be a 9th-degree black belt. He's on posters demonstrating Chung Moo Quan, crouching like a tiger, soaring like an eagle, and using his whole body as a weapon to attack. The signs declare he's the champion of all Asia. Instructors say he won the title in the 1950s, but get vague about where the competition was held.
Well, in Asia, right. Exactly. In Asia, in more tournament in Asia, more the champion of all Asia.
Martial arts officials from Korea say there was no such competition. You could not become champion of all Asia in the 50s?
No.
Not possible?
Not possible. Yeah.
It's hard to check the credentials of any martial arts instructor because there are no recognized boards in this country to approve the schools or certify their staffs. But there are state laws to protect students from being conned, laws that some Chung Moo Quan schools have apparently violated. The law says contracts for martial arts schools cannot charge more than $2,500 per year. Students must be given copies of their contracts, and schools cannot use deceptive or coercive sales tactics. But several former Chung Moo Quan students say that before contracts were to be signed, some instructors gave them a strenuous workout or humiliated or hurt them in class. A former instructor from Minnesota says it was deliberate.
By the time I would get a student into the office, hopefully he's very intimidated and willing to accept my direction and my word.
And your direction would be?
My direction would be to get him in a black belt course.
Sign on the dotted line?
Yes.
He says he quit because he thought students were being misled into believing Chung Moo Quan was legitimate.
But the things they're doing are completely contradictory to that.
What are they doing?
They're conning people.
Students at several schools told us they were pressured to sign contracts for a black belt course at $10,000 to $15,000, the Olympic course for $15,000 to $20,000, and the instructor's course for $20,000 to $30,000. The attorney for the schools here in Illinois says he's surprised to hear of such large contracts and says he'll look into our findings.
I believe Mr. Kim would like to see all the schools comply with all the regulations.
Gallo says it doesn't really matter what the contracts say because they're not enforced in court. But this student, who signed a contract for $18,000, says he was told something else. What did they say about that contract when you went to quit?
That you were obligated to finish off your contract. You had to pay it off.
We talked to some students who paid the schools as much as $50,000. They say some instructors asked them to sell their cars, deplete their savings, and give all their extra money to pay for lessons. This former student says his instructor suggested he get a second job to make his payments, $200 a week in the beginning.
And then near the end, I would be giving them my paycheck and they'd give me money back if I needed it.
Joe Zimhart has deprogrammed several former students.
The mind control in this organization has them believing that the quicker they pay it off, the more righteous or more direction they have within the organization, the more loyalty they have to Chung Moo Quan ideas. And therefore, they generally drain their bank accounts quite rapidly.
Former students say they were told to pay in cash.
What instructors always told us is that was the best way to show respect.
And they were told it's disrespectful to ask for copies of their contracts.
I said, may I please have a copy of that? Well, what's the matter? Don't you trust us? And far be it for me to tell somebody who can terminate my life in 2 seconds, you know I don't trust you.
Then down.
A few weeks ago, the school's attorney claimed that all students get copies of their contracts. But later, when he assembled a group of students for us to interview, they confirmed our finding. Not a single one had gotten a copy of their contract.
That's the first time I've been made aware of that practice.
Does that disturb you?
I saw it and I'm going to look into it.
We also showed him ID cards for advanced students, which say their rank is registered with the Chung Moo Quan organization, Asian headquarters. Gallo admits there is no such organization. It doesn't exist.
Not that I'm aware of.
Is that a good idea legally to be giving out these cards if there is no such organization?
I will say this, Pam, you have brought it to my attention, and I'm going to look into it, and I'm going to review it, and if I feel some changes are necessary, I will make those changes.
Kim's attorney says Kim collects a fee from the schools, but says the owners are responsible for running them. He says that if the owners are violating any laws, their licenses will be revoked. And when I asked why the schools demand payment in cash, he said that it was none of my business. He asked, "Isn't that a matter for the Internal Revenue Service?"
A national chain of martial arts schools is exploiting its staff just as it exploits its students. Last week, the Channel 2 investigative team reported that some of the schools use intimidation and mind control techniques. Tonight, former instructors speak out for the first time about the John C. Kim schools of Chung Moo Quan. Pam Zeckman reports on the tricks they use to recruit followers and raise cash for the cult and the con.
Jeff Austin was a Chung Moo Quan instructor in Minnesota.
What appealed to me about it was that financially I would be set. They had set it up. They had explained that financially you're set. You don't have to worry about anything anymore.
Greg Sombuchner was an instructor in Massachusetts.
But the problem is that they are convincing a lot of people to become involved in something and not telling them what it is.
And this man was an instructor at 2 schools in the Chicago suburbs.
It's very dangerous. They're just ruining people's lives just for their financial gain.
Their story is one of hope and disillusion, trust and betrayal. Looking back, they say they were exploited by a cult and that they unwittingly helped exploit others. They're speaking out despite fear of retaliation so that others don't fall into the same trap. They started as students and advanced to instructors, but getting there was expensive. This former instructor says he spent $50,000 on lessons, shared an apartment with other instructors, and worked 18 hours a day for no pay. What is it that they do that makes people do these things?
Just mind control, brainwashing. They would control how much you would sleep even and keep you there late at night practicing just so you'd be more tired and more vulnerable.
And more willing to sign a huge contract?
Or whatever they wanted.
In just 2 years, this instructor signed 3 contracts for lessons, the largest for $36,000. He was about to sell his business and sign a 4th contract, a certificate course that costs as much as $100,000. $100,000 to get what?
I'm not sure. At that point, who cared?
He can laugh now because he's had extensive counseling since he left Chung Moo Quan last March. But at the time, he believed that by following the teachings of the school founder, John C. Kim, he would have financial security and learn the secrets of life.
And I was willing to do whatever it took to become a part of that knowledge.
Instructors say they used the same tactics on new students that were used to manipulate them.
If you can convince them, hey, your life is terrible. Look at your job. Look at how people treat you. Look at how your wife and family are. You need to improve all of that, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Then that's when they get into higher courses and you become a better instructor.
Regional and national instructors kept track of their performance, and not just in martial arts.
My whole performance as an instructor was based on money. How much money I was bringing in, what type of contracts I was getting people into, how fast I was getting them to advance.
Students advance by passing a martial arts test, while other schools may charge $100 to $200 for a black belt test. Some Chung Moo Quan schools charge $1,000 to $2,000. $2,000 for a test?
Yes.
Was it a long test? A difficult test? Expensive to give?
No, I don't think so. It's just one more way to get the student to part with their money.
Some Chung Moo Quan schools pressured students and instructors to bring in cash gifts to show their respect.
By the time I became an instructor, I was bringing down $500 per birthday and for Christmas for 3 national instructors, 1 master, and whatever else came up.
Do you spend $500 on your mother's birthday gift?
Absolutely not.
Jeff left earlier this year after his parents intervened and hired a cult expert to deprogram him. Greg realized he should get out after a Chung Moo Quan official asked him a frightening question.
You willing to give up your life or to risk your life for the knowledge that you can learn? You know, and I was like, whoa, that's weird.
So you now think Chung Moo Quan is what?
I would say it's very definitely a destructive cult.
John C. Kim was not available for comment, but his Illinois attorney, who was once a Chung Moo Quan student himself, says the schools provide excellent instruction and have improved the health of thousands of people. Is it a cult?
No.
Are students being conned in these contracts?
I am unaware of any con in these contracts at this time. If there's something that you want to bring to my attention, something I can review and look at, I'm more than willing to look at it.
Gallo says he'll specifically look at whether the schools are violating a state law that regulates martial arts schools. Gallo says that if any schools are violating the law, he'll move to discipline the owners and correct the problem. School officials in Minnesota and Massachusetts did not return our phone calls.